I do want to make sure that I get this right, though.
Mm-hmm.
That on Twitter you did say, "Attention conservatives, with every mass shooting where you choose to do nothing, my willingness to compromise wanes.
Yes.
Today I'll settle for training requirements and background checks. If you keep ignoring this, though, I'll support an outright ban.
Yeah.
Fuck around and find out." Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think both of us might be a little boisterous on Twitter from time to time. I am certainly guilty of that. But yeah, I'm pissed off about this latest shooting. I don't know if you saw this, but two Asian parents were slaughtered at this mall, and they have a, I believe, 3-year-old that is going to grow up an orphan now. And when you see accounts like Cat Turd 2 on Twitter just laughing about it, it offends me as someone who thinks children should grow up with a parent. So yeah, I was really bothered by that.
Yeah, I get it, but when you're talking about mass shootings in general
Mhm.
account for a very tiny fraction of gun deaths in the United States. Most of them are suicides. Almost every single, I mean, the overwhelming majority are suicides. That's the first problem. And then
Sure.
moving into the second problem, when it comes to AR-15s, they're responsible for almost no gun deaths.
Mhm.
Very, very, very few gun deaths. So if a person buys an AR-15 right now, they walk into a gun store, they fill out a form 4473, a background check is run on them. After the background check is run on them, depending on the state that they're in, there may be a waiting period, there may not be a waiting period, but most of the guns that are used in mass shootings are obtained legally with
Sure.
background checks,
Right.
with licensing. So I don't understand the argument really that you would say that we need more licensing and more training, considering that these types of mass shootings happen with guns that are already licensed, with people who are already trained. I don't get it.
So let's go through this one at a time. So just to be clear, my focus is not on the AR-15. Something I think is probably different for me than most progressives is I grew up in Mississippi. I know AR-15. I understand it's a platform. I understand there are legitimate uses for it. That's not the focus of what I'm talking about. But I think what you just said is not accurate. If the licensure and the training is not important, how do you explain Massachusetts, which has the strictest standards in all of America on licensure and training? How do you explain us having the lowest gun death of any other state in America? Like, obviously,
It has
something
one
there
of
is
the
different.
it has one of the lowest minority populations, which are responsible for most of the violent crime done with handguns. So, for instance,
Yeah.
if we were to look at Texas, Texas has 3.5 million black people in it, whereas Massachusetts only has 400 and some thousand. And so you're talking about a distinction between a huge percentage. So I'm not saying that there's anything inherently violent about these people. I'm not racialist myself, but if you look at socioeconomic conditions, you kind of understand that violence comes along with the territory. You would have to agree that that's true. And red states are the states that have overwhelmingly the largest amount of the black population and a large amount of minority population. So poverty runs rampant, and criminology goes along with poverty. This is within the progressive creed. I don't even know how you would successfully argue with that. And then kind of moving on into that second, Massachusetts has suffered 19 mass shootings
Yeah.
from 2013 to 2019. So you're not exempt,
No.
even though this population of minorities is much, much smaller than it is in these other states where you tend to see a lot more of these mass shootings, because it depends on the criteria of how we define a mass shooting. So a lot of times gang-related mass shootings aren't even counted, even though more people die in them than in one of these kind of general goes into a school and opens up. So when we're talking about this, I think we got to be really honest with the data.
So I think I would need to see some evidence to believe. Massachusetts, it's true, doesn't have as many black people as say Mississippi, where I grew up. But if you're talking about Boston proper, we certainly have. I mean, it's a very, very diverse place. So I don't think the vastly different numbers there could be explained by that. I think you would need to have some evidence for that position.
Well, the
I
evidence
think.
is,
Hold on. I'll
yeah,
let you
okay.
finish. I'm going to do
Go
the
ahead.
same. I think if you look overall at the directionality of the data, From my understanding of this, and I did do research before coming on here today, directionally, I think you find that states with stronger licensure and training requirements, states with stronger background checks, in the aggregate, do tend to have lower gun violence rates. And I think, though, your point is very well taken that these steps do not make that zero in Massachusetts. I would bet a lot of money that Massachusetts still has more gun violence than places in Europe, for instance. I think this is America. And I think there's something about our national character where we enjoy guns. And I think we're very reluctant to give up guns. And right now, today, I think it's probably a fruitless endeavor for any politician in America to try to ban all guns. What I do think we can do is start moving the needle and trying to promote more responsible gun ownership. If you'll give me just 1 second, I want to tell you a super quick story. When I was growing up in Mississippi, I will never forget the first time I got to shoot a gun. It was when I went to Kings Arrow Ranch, which was Christian Bible camp, right? You could sign up for any class you wanted. And I wanted to learn to shoot a gun. The NRA person come out. He made us sit there and fill out all this gun safety stuff first. We had to pass this written test, and then they took us out to the range with the 22, where a team of NRA people taught us to fire the weapon safely and then store it safely. I remember so clearly somebody accidentally pointing it at another kid at the camp and him being thrown out of the class for being irresponsible. That taught me how to be around guns safely as a child. I'm not scared to fire guns today because of that experience. If I could do that as a child, why do you not want that same standard for adults in this country?
Well, because I think that your correlatory is incorrect.
Okay.
So you're trying to make what you think is a common sense correlatory that having more gun restrictions is what leads to less gun homicide. And what I'm saying is that that's actually a weaker correlatory than poverty. And I can express this even in your own state of Massachusetts, as I just looked this up. Are you aware that 90% of all homicide victims in Massachusetts are black males? 90%.
That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah.
All right. So who's doing all of the shooting, do you think, for the most part?
I would have to look into that. I could only guess.
Well, it's black males. Black males it's black on black violence, the overwhelming majority of it. I have the stats in front of me. I can actually give them to you if you'd like me to in the chat.
There's a story that came out in Boston about the average black person having $8 in Boston proper. So that actually does not surprise me. Like aggregate total wealth. So I would believe that.
So this is the same correlatory that you're going to find in every single state in the union when it comes to homicide death. They're overwhelmingly sloped racially with black males, black on black violence, and especially handgun deaths. So handguns are the primary. They're the primary architects of deaths, not rifles, especially not assault rifles, which only account for 3%. So I think that the correlatory makes no sense to me. You're saying that some of the staunchest gun restrictions stop the homicide rate, but that really doesn't bear out very well. So what I see is that poverty seems to be in line with crime and criminology. We see that all over the United States, especially with minorities and especially in the black population, which is a combination of culture, a combination of possibly history, all kinds of different things which come into this correlatory. But it's massive. It's massively sloped. So the thing is like, if you really were concerned that gun crime and guns killing too many people, why wouldn't you look at the specific demographic who's killing the most of them with the guns, instead of kind of making these broad generalizations of, well, we just need to do more licensing and things like that, which really aren't going to solve the problem, considering Massachusetts already had 19 mass shootings, for instance, this kind of thing. That doesn't seem to do much.
So let's just take that step by step. So I'm trying to remember these numbers off the top of my head, but the last time I checked, the black population of Mississippi was roughly 43%, I believe. And in Massachusetts, if I remember correctly, isn't it like 33% or 30%? No, is that true?
Yeah, it's true.
Wow. Really thought that was much higher. Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
Where's
the
that
black
according to?
population is 7.74 or 7.47%. So it's
Where are you seeing that?
7%. This is the 2023 demographics for world population.
Okay.
Massachusetts demographic, black or African American, is 7%, Asian is 6%. 90% of all the homicides there happen from black males on black males.
I seem to remember looking this up in Wikipedia and it being different, but it's been a while. Let's just go with your numbers though. Theoretically, I'll grant you the argument for right now.
Mm-hmm.
If that's true though, like wouldn't states with very, very, very low minority populations, like say Wyoming, wouldn't they have the very lowest gun like violence rates? Because that doesn't hold that that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere you see less of a percentage of minorities, especially the racial demographic of African American, you find far less gun deaths. Yes,
But why would that not be lower than Massachusetts?
it is lower. Well, in Massachusetts, the overall ratio is lower because the amount of these minorities is far lower.
I feel if just being honest, I would need to look into this. I don't see you're drawing a correlation here. Where is the evidence for this? Because
Well,
like
the
there are
evidence is
many. Hold
very
on, let me
clear.
finish.
Okay,
Let me
go
finish.
ahead.
Because it seems to me there are many things you could say are different in Massachusetts versus Mississippi, right? Like country music fans, for instance, right? That would probably be a much higher incidence in Mississippi. Where do you get this direct correlation that it has to be because of that? That seems
Okay,
like
so
something you would need to
well,
prove.
we can demonstrate this pretty easily. So
Hmm.
we understand that African Americans only make up a small portion of the population. You agree that that's true, the general population of the United States. So if you want the exact total, I'll give it to you. The total African American population US, just to make sure that I'm not quoting it incorrectly.
Sure.
It's 12.1% total. Now it's 6% of that, which is black male, which is uh, basically responsible for most of the handgun crime. Now, to give you an understanding of how staggering this is sloped, you're talking about 53% of all gun homicides being committed by 6% of the population.
Hmm.
So if you were to extrapolate that as an average over 50 states, it would actually make far more sense as a correlatory that where there was more black males who were impoverished, there's going to be a lot more gun homicide. There's kind of no way around that. We could do this state by state, in fact, and it could be demonstrated to you that way. There's really no way around it.
So, what is your plan in the United States? Do you want to deny Black people the right to have guns? Like that
Actually,
is
that's my
a
question. That's my question to you.
no. Of course not.
Traditionally, most of the time that gun control has been implemented in the United States, it was a hyper focus of taking guns away from minorities. That was what they were. The original gun laws, in fact, were crafted so that blacks didn't have guns, because the stereotype was if they did, there would be rampant carnage and they would be killing everybody, right? And
Sure.
then you fast forward to 2023, and it's like, oh shit. Um, the thing is that I don't believe that I don't believe in biological determinism, any of that, right? It's completely and totally against Christian ethics. But what I do know is that as a percentage, this is absolutely true. And there's nothing that can be done to dispute this. It's just a truth. It's a factual truth that this is going on. The problem is that you either are going to have to cure this problem one of two ways. The first way is, yes, you would have to draft strict gun control policies only affecting certain demographics in the United States, which would be completely unconstitutional and immoral. Or secondly, you would have to do whatever you could to move the impoverished demographics out of poverty. And then you see the crime correlatory drop and reduce significantly. What doesn't work to stop mass shootings is licensing. What doesn't work to stop mass shootings is restrictions. What doesn't work to stop mass shootings are any of these things, or the overall trend of violence, which is gun related, which is almost all handguns.